Hello, my name is Jacqueline Sproles, and I'm going to give you my opinion on the election. Okay, so it is five topics I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about the topics of the first topic is the electors in Michigan. Now, before Trump received 270 popular electoral votes, he received 15 Michigan votes. Okay, so let me make that a little clearer. For order a president to win the presidential election, you have to have 270 votes. Okay, now if Trump had received those 270 votes before Michigan electors came along, then Michigan electors would have been added to Trump's popularity electoral votes. But it did not happen that way. How Trump received his 270 electoral votes was with 15 electors from the state of Michigan. Now, here's why I say that's a problem. Because we have diversified electors in the state of Michigan. It is no such thing as 15 Republican delegate electors voted on in a convention in the state of Michigan. Now, we may have had two or three, or at least four or five, but all 15 electoral votes was not Republicans. For order him or Trump to receive 270 votes, which I believe he received 273 on one site, 296 on another site. Well, that's half of the electors. We only have 538 electors in the whole 52 states, or 50 states as they count the 52 states. So, what I'm saying here is that to gain his 270, it included Michigan. Now, if y'all looked at the map of the electoral voters, and I tried to upload the maps, I don't know if someone uh, took them down or got rid of them, but it showed Nebraska Democratic Party elector with the one little blue elector with the surroundings of the Republican electors who voted for Trump. Well, in Michigan, you had all 15 red electors. It's impossible. When you go to the convention and they vote in the people to be the electors, and even through the black caucus, they voted in electors. How could there be 15 Republican electors in the state of Michigan? Now, that's one subject I want people to think about. The second topic I want to talk about is the commercial. The commercial they put up about women private secretly vote. That was a vote between that woman and herself. Now, this just didn't happen because They wanted to make sure the women understood what they was talking about. So they gonna create a commercial to show the women how to vote. That was the ignorantest thing I ever seen in my life. When I seen that video, I was hoping that it was only secluded to YouTube. And I was hoping it wasn't a commercial for the television or for any other site. But Twitter, now X, received that commercial. And Joe Rogan did a commercial himself on it, telling all the husbands that their wives were sneakily hitting to vote for Kamala Harris. That commercial should have never been made. Will it have stopped the voters from voting for Trump? I don't think so. But it did hinder the women who was going to secretly vote for Kamala Harris. As a canvasser, I have spoken to Republican women who voted for Obama as well as Hillary Clinton, and they voted secretly. They voted without their husband thinking they would vote for the opposite party. That was their secret. To put a commercial out about it, whoever that was on that campaign, because we know that the elect president or the incumbent nominee as a president do not make those decisions in a campaign. The campaign makes those decisions, which is the Democratic Party. And whoever that person was in the Democratic Party that created and convinced the party that that commercial about women secretly voting for Kamala Harris should be fired immediately from the Democratic Party. Because they are not a Democrat. They created that video or that movie or that commercial to tell on the Democratic Party. They didn't create it to, women already know what they was going to do. Some women, not all women. But the ones who usually vote for the opposite side have already voted for the opposite side. They don't need a commercial to tell them how to vote. You just told the Republican MAGAs their secret. That's all. So they created podcasts all over YouTube, Twitter, well, X, to make sure that the wives did not vote for the opposite party. I was with people voting, and the husbands were standing over their wives, making sure they don't vote for the opposite party. This is how extreme that commercial took to the Republican husbands. They stood over their wives to make sure that they didn't vote for the opposite party. That commercial took away the women who was going to vote for Kamala Harris. Third, the visualization of the campaign. You seen a building or two commercialed up with Kamala Harris. Now we're talking about a first time nominee black female president running for the United States of America, highest office in the land. And the visualization of her presence in these communities supposed to be through the Democratic Party was not seen. You can't do a mirror on an abandoned building and think everyone's going to flock to vote. And that's the only thing I saw visually. That's the only thing I saw. I, you had MAGAs in Detroit rolling around with trucks with visual signs and uh, entertainment movies on the side of trucks with babies being crushed and out of the womb of a woman. You see more visualization of the Republican Party in Detroit than you've seen of the Democratic Party. But you have flyers coming to doors, coming to the mail, coming through the mail every 2 days. These are flyers talking about issues that is being talked about issues every day on different internet sections, different news media outlet. You have the same thing coming through the mail. Instead of doing visual demonstrations in the city, you have more of Trump visual demonstrations than Kamala Harris. I didn't understand that. And the fourth one I wanted to talk about is the way the Democratic Party basically structured out the students from college that probably taken a political class here and there, but really truly did not know about the politics and what was at risk. When you go into the organizations to canvass, they would give you a mini list, and you would have to drive to these designated areas, get out, and walk to the people's houses on your own time and on your own gas. But you was volunteering to do this. But when it comes to volunteering, you don't ask for people to volunteer and then turn around and tell people they have to use their own gas, their own footwork to get to the voters, to talk to the voters. This campaign was so reckless that I've never seen it done in my whole 30 years of working, volunteering, and canvassing in the political party. It was not put together correctly. And I understand that a lot of people want to say, oh, the campaign was flawless. Well, it may have been flawless in Ohio, or not Ohio, but Illinois. She won Illinois, not Ohio. Illinois, because the people put in the efforts, regardless if it was volunteer, regardless if it was footwork, gas work. You had to go to these places. These places weren't right there together. You have to go to different counties, different districts, using your own gas, using your own footwork. And then you have to talk to these people to let them know that or talk to the voters. I ain't gonna say these people, but talk to the voters to let them know how important this election is. I had a lot of people telling me they wasn't going to do it. Although the Democratic Party was saying they was getting out to vote. Most of the people who came to volunteer was elderly people, older people, or older people trying to get out to vote. We did more effort with the governor than we did with the first black or the first woman of color going to the highest office in the land. You had the governor, when she was running for the state of Michigan, have people come from everywhere. You had organizations driving people around to go to districts and talk to people. You had organizations calling on the phone talking to people. You had people making sure those votes was committed. They were signing pledges to make sure if you vote, if you really want to vote for this person, you will sign this pledge and you won't go back on this pledge. And people were signing them. We had individuals coming to talk about economics. Individuals who was celebrities. We had Kerry Washington come and talk about how important it is to have a good governor for the economics of our state. I don't know who's in charge of the Democratic Party at this point in time and who made all these reckless decisions. And I call them reckless because none of them was organized to a point to get out the factual information about what was at risk. Now I understand this is not I'm not a media, I'm not a reporter, I'm not a journalist. I'm just a facts teller. I'm just a person that tells what I see and I tell it directly. A lot of people don't like that. That's because they don't like the truth. But I have had people tell me that they're not going to work in the campaign because they wasn't getting paid. And they wasn't going to drive around from district to district on their gas because they was not getting gas money. But you was paying organizations who was basically students, and this is the same mistake Hillary made. And I tried to tell Hillary at that point in time, when these students did not understand that landlines did not exist anymore. It may exist in the Delaware or the Alabama country, but it did not exist at that point in time among the communities they was trying to organize or trying to get to vote. And it was list after list they had with landlines that people didn't even use anymore. Phone numbers that people wasn't even answering because of the simple fact they didn't have a phone landline. They didn't have AT&T anymore landline. They had mobile service, a cell phone. And the students was employed, didn't care. They did their job of what you told them to do. Now, I'm not trying to degrade the Democratic Party. I'm basically saying that it was the wrong structure. How they performed this organization to put the first woman of color in the highest office in the land was not done correctly. And we're talking about on the ground. We're not talking about the celebrities. Now, the celebrity part and the celebrities who endorsed her was great. But we're talking about on the ground. They got the celebrities to vote. They got the people who was behind the celebrities to vote for her. But we're talking about the ordinary people who was on the ground. People who didn't too much socialize or wasn't convinced by the celebrities. Normal working people who didn't have the people coming out to their homes because you was giving people lists and basically telling them to go out and talk to the people. Drive your own car to the communities, to the counties, and how could that work? I mean, we're talking about Wayne County. Wayne County. And I'm not trying to degrade anyone, but we're talking about people who don't have transportation. We're talking about people who don't have functional license to drive to different counties or to drive to different districts. We're talking about individuals who couldn't go across 8 Mile. Then we're talking about individuals in the suburbs that basically went along with whatever that was going on with the suburbians or stayed out of it. That means they did not vote. It wasn't vice president, president to be Kamala Harris. It was the organization. I don't care if they get mad or what I'm saying. It's true. They asked me to canvass. I canvassed, but I used my own vehicle, my own gas, my own feet to walk from house to house. I put up videos. I did everything that was possible to do. Volunteer. I wasn't paid for anything. But I didn't care to be paid because this was a historical moment to put the first woman of color in the presidency. But my personality is not everyone's personality or everybody's personality. They wasn't together. And I don't care what podcast, news media say they was organized for this type of job to put the woman of color in the highest office in the land. There was not. There was no organization combined together to enforce those votes. You have videos popping up now that people are actually saying they threw away Kamala's voting ballots. You have people saying, no, I didn't vote. You have people in this area of South Detroit, South Side, has nothing. The people don't want to change because they think that taxes going to increase, and they think that more people is going to take over their property or take over the property that's in the area. And you can't stop that. Change is going to happen. But sitting in poverty for 10 years and some of the people in this area voted against their own interests. When Kamala Harris stated that she would give $50,000 to new entrepreneurs with businesses. We have over 15 businesses trying and struggling in this area because you have no supermarket, you have no resources, you have no stores, you have no mini stations, you have no plazas. They built a smoke shop when they could have built a supermarket. That just shows you the investment that they want. And when I say they, I'm talking about the rich or wealthy people who want to profit off of working class and the working poor. This is disgusting. This is horrible. I'm doing this briefing just to show my expression on all the time, the effort, the support. You know, when I went to a support party, and this party was for Harris, and it was to uh, pledge voters. It was a handful of voters, people that came out. And I'm like, wait a minute. This community consists of over 10,000 people or more, where she gave her um, voting watch party for the debate with Donald Trump. The area consists of over 10,000 and more people. And it was approximately less than 50 people showed up. And I'm like, well, maybe people are like me, you know. They don't like to be around people when it's listening to reporting or accurate or factual information or debates because I don't like people talking when I'm listening to a debate because I want to hear every fact. You had less than 50 people to show up. The organization did not organize correctly. I don't care what anyone says. And I'm only talking about Wayne County. Now, I know nothing about how they organized in um, Colorado, where she won. California, I knew she would win. Because California is about freedom. Let's be free. Let's be who we are. Individuals, if you want to be a drag queen, if you want to be Miss It, if you want to be social anti, if you California is really diversified. And I really like it, but I can't afford to stay there. They are a little too high. But Michigan, they claimed that it was so organized. It was not. I've been through a lot of canvassing, from volunteer to being paid. I've never, ever seen this type of organization organized the way they did to put a woman of color in the highest office in the land. You had people texting messages and you didn't even know who to pick. They wasn't even identifying Kamala Harris or Harris and Tim Walz. They was just texting. And you get a text and you're like, I'm not gonna respond to this text because I don't know who this is. They wasn't even putting it under the 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 the, the key mark of Kamala and Tim Harris campaign. It was Kamala had they had created a website and a text for Kamala Harris. It was like, we know we're not talking to Kamala Harris. We know Kamala Harris is not texting billions and billions of people every 2 or 3 days. That was the organization, but they didn't do a key mark. They didn't do a status or a symbol to let the people know that that was the actual real Democratic Party. It was like me texting people, hey, you're going to vote? That's how it was. And they used Kamala's name. This is Kamala. I'm talking to you. You're going to vote. People know that it's not Kamala. Okay? They're not, you know, that unfamiliar with texting. This organization, the way they organized it, was horrible. And I'm not here to, like I said, degrade the Democratic Party, but it wasn't an organization or organizing, canvassing for the first woman of color to go to the highest land in office. They did more organization putting the governor, which is Whitmore, in office. You had people being paid to go out and canvass. You had mobile people picking people up, taking people to the districts, taking people to the counties to get out and go and talk to people. This organization for canvassing gave you a list and told you to go do the work. And you a volunteer. Just think about that. And I understand a lot of volunteers will do it, like myself. But you have a lot of people just going to get a list and going to throw it somewhere. And I'm not doing that. I'm not driving to another county. Well, some of the people can't drive to other districts and counties. Did they ever take that in consideration? We have a lot of people that don't have driver's license. A lot of people that has different other things on them that can't go to different other counties. Or people who have no cars. They don't have the transportation. We have working people that are not going to take the time that they're off and drive their cars to different districts and different counties to get out and talk to people after working 8 to 16 hours a day. Did they really understand that? I mean, I don't understand how they organized this or who organized it, but it wasn't organized correctly. And furthermore, to pivot back to that commercial that they did with women voting for Kamala Harris, which was not understood. Because why would you get someone from your organization to create a commercial on how a Republican wife voted for the opposite party? Whoever created that commercial to inform the MAGAs on what the Democratic Party was actually doing. Because you don't have to create a commercial telling the women to vote for opposite party. I canvassed for Hillary Clinton, as well as Obama. And we know both of these candidates was Democrats. It was certain ways that you talk to individuals and they respond to you to let you know that they was going to vote for the candidates. And the president, the 44th president of Barack Obama, the women voted for him. Republican women voted for him without their husband knowing. In Hillary Clinton case, women voted for her. Convinced by some of the canvass, as I am one, was in her campaign, but they acknowledged it. In a way that their husbands wouldn't have known, and to keep their vote a secret. It's not nobody's business who a female votes for. It should have stayed that way. Whoever created that video, and I'm not saying that video is what took away from the whole campaign. It took away a lot, but it didn't take away from the whole campaign. But it did expose the women, Republican women, who was going to vote for Kamala Harris. And I can tell you that direct. Because when I was at the polls with some of the voters, and I went to a couple, more than 3, and you had the Republican husbands standing over their wives, making sure that they did not vote for the opposite party. And then last, before I clear up this brief video, you had, and the reason why I'm saying you had, we all had, but basically you had Latino men telling Latino voters, American Latino voters, to vote for Trump. You had Latino Americans. And I asked why. You know what the Latino said? And this was a gentleman from the UAW. I'm not going to say his first name, but his last name was Rodriguez. And you had him say that he himself, as a Latino, did not want the illegal Latinos to come here because they would take up all the money. And then he quoted something that Trump MAGAs said, that they was living in hotels free of charge. They had taken over the cars. They was getting free cars, free food stamps, free checks, free places to live. And that's the reason why he thought, or he was voting for Trump, and he felt that there should be a massive deportation. Now, this wasn't coming from a black person or a white person. This was coming from their own nationality, a Latino man who was a former UAW. And he quoted he was retiring in 2 weeks. He had done his 30 years. And he felt that Trump had given them more than Harris would be able to give them. And I don't see how he came up with that solution, since he's about to retire. And within his 30 years he claiming, he didn't went through, if he's still claiming 30 years, he didn't went through Bush, Well, partial of Reagan, Bush, and Clinton, and Obama. So he didn't went through Bush, Bush Jr., Obama, and we could say Clinton. So, and now Trump. He claims that Trump gave him more. I can't see that. Because 30 years, that means that you had a pension. That means you got retirement funds because you're getting ready to retire, right? So that means you had a pension. So we got to go back to Obama. Obama saved the pensions. Believe that. I'm SEIU. And the unions was in the red zone. Red zone means they was defunding our pensions. They was using our pensions to do what they wanted to do. And when Obama came in, Obama made them put those pensions in a quote unquote stable economy. And there was not to use those pensions any longer for any political obligation that the unions had. So those pensions was put up and made sure that it was kept out the red zone so we could have pensions. So when he was telling me this, I'm looking at him because I'm a pension person myself through the union. And I'm like, that's impossible. Trump basically didn't even want y'all to have pensions. You're talking about only 4 years. You getting ready to retire. You retiring with a pension. And he was like, yes. So it's impossible for Trump to oversee the pensions and keep the pensions safe within the time limit that you carry the pension. And he just, oh no, well, he still done more for us. He gave us money. Gave who money? Basically, he was talking about the stimulus check that Trump put his name on, but Congress gave to a community, a state, a country because of a virus, pandemic. But nevertheless, he was telling people of his nationality to vote for Trump. Now, I'm looking at that situation and I'm saying to myself, no, it's not about the pensions. It's not about economics. It's about selfishness, self preservation. You don't want to see your nationality come over here and succeed like you did. That's what that was about. Because it couldn't have been about who gave what within the time frame that he received what he received. Because if it wasn't for Obama, the UAW would have been gone a long time ago. The union of the plants, Ford, Chrysler, all those plants would have been closed down. And no one, because they received the payout during the last year of the Bush Jr. That's how horrible it was in Michigan. Everybody was getting a payout of 20, 10, 20, and $30,000. A payout meant you don't get any more pensions. Your pension is non-effective anymore. We're going to pay you out. So for him to say that he is 30 years about to retire, and the reason why he's going to vote for Trump is because of economics, which is money factors, that was a lie. I knew that instantly. He was voting for Trump because of self-preservation. And he did not want to see his nationality succeed as well as he did. And that's why a lot of people voted for Trump, because they don't want to see you succeed. I told individuals, and I made it clear on websites when it came down to talking to individuals, that the president, Mr. Biden, Joe Biden, was striving for urban economics to bring money to the black communities. When that was known, all of a sudden Biden became too old to do the job. Although when you go get older, you're going to talk slower, you're going to think about things before you say them, and you're going to revelate back into the things that occurred with you in life to show the people how the outcome can be. That's an older person. You're not going to get up there and flip your lips and lie on everything and hope they don't catch you like J.D. Vance. But they got him to step down. And once President Joe Biden stepped down, I knew that it was not going to be an easy election. When they endorsed Kamala Harris, now remember, they endorsed her. 270 electors. Remember that now. 270 electors. Let me make that clear. Let me do this again. 270 electors endorsed Kamala Harris to run for the president. And that included the state of Michigan. But during November 5th, we have 15. Listen to it closely now. 15 Republican electors to vote for Trump. How does that happen? How does she get the endorsement during the primary, which I was part of the endorsement during the primary? They kicked me off the ballot for the general because my time was up in the primary. I was a delegate, and I was voted in as elector for Biden, and I voted for Biden as the president, as a Democrat, as a woman of color. But during the primary of Kamala Harris, my term ended because you only have 2 years, and I tried to get back on the ballot, and they was like, "Oh no, sister, you ain't getting back on this ballot." So now all of a sudden, during the general election, November the 5th, we had 15 in the state of Michigan, diversified Michigan, toss up Michigan, 15 Republican electors to vote for Trump. Now, a lot of people might say, "Oh no, they included the electors after Trump won the popular vote." No, he has to get to 270 popular vote to win the popular vote. The 15 electors from Michigan included the 270 popular votes. So that meant, like in Nebraska, they had a, I believe, four Republican, if I'm not sure, five of Republican electors to vote for Trump, and one delegate that was, or elector that was a Democrat, and they posted that up there. They showed you that Democrat elector along with them five Republican electors. They didn't do that in Michigan. They said all 15 electors from Wayne County, Macomb County, Allen County, all these counties put together in Michigan, 15 electors was Republicans. Come again? I've never seen that in my life. If you look up the popular vote and see how the transition went through, I can understand if Trump had got or received the popular vote at 270, then they just joined Michigan voters, electoral voters with the 270 and said, hey, that was just because he won the popular vote. But it wasn't. The 15 was supposed to be 15 Republican electors that was included into the 270 popular electors. That's impossible. We have too many elected delegates to be electors. And they're not all Republicans. And it was not all Republicans. So I don't know how they got that across. I don't know how Michigan actually fulfilled that. I know it had to bring alert to a lot of delegates that was kicked off the ballot for the November general election. Now, it looks like they appointed these electors and voted them in as electors, as all Republicans electors. But who knows? We don't really get the information that is supposed to be given out to the people. You don't get that type of information from the state of Michigan. You get the Secretary of State to come up and say, well, we did everything by the book. Yeah, you could have did everything by the book the last time that they illegally appointed electors to win the election. But it didn't happen because we had people pointing it out. This time, we didn't have people pointing it out. And it went by like it's nothing. Now, you could say, I'm just hating. No, I'm not hating, because if I was hating, I would be like, okay, well, this and that and that and this. I would be complaining about every little thing that took place. I'm just complaining and directly talking about the things that's obvious. You have videos popping up now that people are basically confessing that they threw away Kamala Harris's votes. You have people in this community, Southwest Detroit South Side, that they have nothing. Nothing but a little money they got coming in, which they will not have after 2025. So then they don't have to worry about someone changing something because they won't even have those fundings coming in. But this community has nothing. You're going to tell me people voted against their own interests? They do not even have a supermarket over here. No retail stores, no business stores. You can't even get a pack of copy papers unless you go to Dearborn, Walmart's, or somewhere in another location of a county to get materials you need as a business. You're going to tell me that the majority of people, because if only 46% turned out, that means where's the other 54%? In Detroit, Wayne County, if only 46% of people turned out to vote in Wayne County, we're not talking about the suburbs, metropolitan. We're talking about Wayne County. If only 46 people turned out in Wayne County, that means 54% did not. And I can understand the incarceration because we have a lot of people in the city of Detroit and the county of Wayne that is incarcerated. So 20% would have took care of that incarceration. Then that, therefore, it's still supposed to be at least 80% or at least 70% of turnout. 70% should have turned out in Wayne County. Why do you think they didn't turn out in Wayne County? Because they did not get the correct information. They did not understand how important this vote was. They didn't care. They listened to Dr. Umar telling them not to vote. They listened to other podcasts saying your vote don't count. Don't vote anyway. Who cares? They're going to do what they want to do. We always been able to fend for ourselves. How? How can you able to fend for yourself if you don't have no jobs? If you don't have no business? If you don't have the economic system helping you? If you don't have a good justice system, an equal justice system, a neutral justice system, how can you fend for yourself in an economic, political, government country? When it is approximately, probably, we could say 4 to 5 dispensers that's selling weed now or other narcotics to individuals. So you can't be the big drug dealer anymore. So tell me, how are you going to fend for yourself? I didn't understand that. So you have people that voted for Trump, specifically in this area. Some of the people voted for Trump because they was making profit on the stock market. Now we know that Trump has invested in small companies, big companies, different counties and states, different local communities. Um, I oh, I want to thank someone for whoever sent me the book of every vote equal. Thank you very much for the book. And I went through the book, and I did not know that Trump had invested in the international airport in Ohio, Florida, and Pennsylvania, and other entities. And he called in on them boats. He called in on the military. He had put money into these military communities. You know, when they are um, basically settled in different communities where um, they are when they go to certain services. I don't know what to call it, but they are basically stationed. The places that the military station the soldiers before they go to war or go wherever they necessarily need for the war, he invested in these towns. And he called in the investments. He called in the investments. That's what he was talking about when he kept saying about how he did this for this uh, basically um, city or state. He was calling in his bets, basically, you could say. Now, you bet on a horse, you win, you call your bookie to get the money. He's calling in his bets that he invested. The national airport in Ohio, he called it in. That's how he won in Ohio. He called in his bets in Florida. He called in his bets in Pennsylvania. Look it up. Thank you for the book. I had no idea that Trump had sent fundings to these different local and state environments just to make sure that he had them in his hand. See, that's what people don't understand. That people can invest in property, invest in cleaning up your community, invest in jubilizing or bringing back your airports and your field camps. And they're going to be grateful for that because that person built their community back up. They built their livelihood. And that's what Trump called in on. Now we sit around here and we try to push individuals to get investments for us, for our community, to build our community up. But they don't want to do it because they want to continue on basically stigmatizing the community to get federal funding to keep coming in. Meanwhile, they keep certain communities in poverty so they can continue getting the federal money. But the federal money is not going into the community. So that's why you have so many people looking at what Trump did with these communities or with these different districts in different states. When he gave them the money to build the airports, gave them the money to create better posts for the soldiers to come to during a war. He called in on the investment fundings for them to vote for him. Now, I understand that most politicians give to the quote unquote the who's who. To make themselves a little bit more popular because they think the who's who is actually representing the poverty in the middle class and the people who's working in poverty, which the ones who not getting any benefits the way they should be getting, the working poor. But they don't speak for us and they don't represent us. How Trump won is he went directly to the people who needed the fundings and he gave it to them. The international airport in Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, the military, he made sure that the camps they have to lay their head at was invested, was given fundings. He started from the local and he made sure that they gave to the local as well as to the state to build communities, to build up the communities. This is what the Democrats is basically trying to do, but haven't accomplished it. They give it to the who's who. But the who's who do not represent the poverty, working folks, the striving middle class, and the strong entrepreneurs. That's the difference. Okay, so I just want to basically put out this little brief because I understand that this is a horrible situation and we have people that voted against their own interests. I can't understand how you hear a president basically is going to give you $50,000 to open a business. And I understand it's unbelievable, but it happens. You know why? Because Trump has done it. He has invested. We're talking about 80,000. Let me grab this here. Thank you so much for the book. Let me put it up here. Thank you so much for the book. But let me give you a little details because when this book was sent to me, I was like, what? And it was like, learn how to electors vote, and learn how to state vote, and learn how. I thank the person who sent it to me because they was giving me the information that I necessarily needed to know why voters vote for certain people or voted for Trump. And when they gave it to me, I looked. The first thing I went to, and it's basically whoever sent it was I believe it was a Republican or independent, because this is a Trump book. This is all about Trump. This whole entire book is about Trump. It's about what Trump did for the communities, what Trump did for the states, what Trump did for investing in the communities, how he built up the airport, how he invested in the money of building different communities. Now, this is the page. I'm going to show it to you here. And it tells you, I don't know if I can get it close here. Let me give you, there you go. Here we go here. Okay? Now, I know everybody is uploading PowerPoints and presentation documents, But it states here that in Florida, 3.3 million was sent to um, the airport to improvement safety and enhancements. And that was in Florida. In Ohio, he sent 18.9 million to build the airport and several other improvements to update safety and great for the economy and the people of Ohio. So we're talking about he sent it to communities, districts, and states. In another one in Pennsylvania, he did the same thing. He sent 18.7 million to 77 point million to that Northeast Philadelphia airport to be improved. Other surroundings of the state. So I understand that the Democratic president is sending the money to Michigan. The money is just not going into the communities. It's not being invested to keep us safe, improve our environment, or beautify our communities. Now, I understand that they come up every year, fiscal year, saying, "Oh, we can show where we put the money in." But if you put the money in the same rotating situation and it's not working, it's just rotating. That means they're taking the money, pocketing the money, doing the money here, doing the money here, but nothing is improving. Then the money is going in the wrong places. The money is going in the wrong hands. That hands need to be taken away so the money can flow into the environments that it needs to be. So when I received the book, I understood why the Republicans was voting for him. But the whole point is here is that when you have a president, excuse me, a nominee president telling you, we're going to make sure that you get $50,000. Well, we should have, truthfully, what they were saying, we should have been at $50,000 for entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurship should have been through before this president. Small businesses should have been looked at a long time ago. But you got to understand that Kamala Harris wasn't the president a long time ago. This is a brand new president telling you what she was going to do. She was basically going to do the same thing that Trump is doing. She was going to make sure that companies, small business, was invested with money that they can start their businesses. She was going to make sure that you get the $25,000 to enhance housing or buy a home or start for a down payment to get a home. She was doing the things that we have been asking a president to do. Now, when Biden came in saying that he's going to make sure money is getting to the urban city. And he told everybody, he said the money is going in there. The money is coming in. The money's just not going to the communities. And he was right. You got it flowing through so many hands. And I've been in Detroit for a long time, in and out. I've went to different states and stayed, from California to Miami to a lot of places. But the thing about it, I always return to the city of, or the state of Michigan. not just the city, but the state of Michigan. The whole point is that the money is not being invested in the right hands. And I can only speak at this point in time on the city of Detroit, the state of Michigan. And here's why I believe you have too many organizations, you have too many committees, you have too many. You're 756,000 people with over 20,000 committees. Rectify that for me. How does that happen? How does you have 20,000 committees, or you could say that because it seems like it. Everything is under a committee, not actually under the elected official who's supposed to be running certain districts, certain communities, certain uh, local, different, you could say local environments. The committees are. Why? Why do you have so many committees? It doesn't need a committee to tell you that climate change is going to happen with 15 to 25 people as the committee. It don't need a committee that's going to talk about how to make a complaint against DET with 15 committee people. This is going to change the century because the people are afraid that Trump's going to come in with Project 2025 and just make everybody's lives a living hell. Well, if you live in Detroit, under all of these committees and all of this misinformation, and when you call a department, you can't get in touch with the elected official that you elected in unless you interconnect or you connected in some kind of way. They didn't say that when they was running for office. They did not say, well, we're only going to involve ourselves with the people who connected with us, that we know. The people who just voting for us, just want a good life or a change of a life, we're not going to connect with them. If the candidate said that, they wouldn't get in office. But that's what's in office. You have people that will not answer the phone if you call them to find out what's the fiscal year, what is the future forecast for this community. You can't get it. But you can get someone that jumps online and talking about they for the UAW, then run as a partisan. Not a Democrat, a partisan. But the Democrat flows to their campaign. Oh, we support them. It's a partisan. And plus the person is not for your policies. How do you support them? You have a charter that they didn't basically took over where it's like now you don't have it. What's the purpose for the elected officials if you mandate this charter to do whatever it wants? What's the purpose of electing city councils, management, executives, representatives, senators? If you have a city charter that mandates all of that, that basically says you have to follow this charter. And I understand the city charter is supposed to be for the people. So the people won't be taken advantage of. But in this city charter of Detroit, it's all for the elected officials. So they won't get put out of office. So they won't get a complaint against them. So they won't get basically recalled. So it's all for the elected officials. A charter, a city charter is supposed to be for the people. To protect the people. Not to protect the officials. But the Detroit City Charter is all about protecting the elected officials to keep them in office. And you don't find nothing wrong with that? So, this election and the way it was done, it was horrible. And I could say that from being on the ground, going to the campaign offices, and canvassing, while listening to commercials exposing women and their hidden secrets. This is my opinion. My name is Jacqueline Sprouse.